This is not a speech to motivate you. It is a summons, a spiritual reawakening, a call to arms for the man who has drifted from the voice of his Creator, the voice that once whispered, "You were meant for more." This message is not designed for the man who seeks comfort, applause, or quick reward. It is written for the soul who feels misaligned, misplaced, or forgotten, not by God, but by himself. Inside this message lies a blueprint, not for riches alone, not for fame, but for divine purpose. The kind of purpose that pulls mountains from your path and writes your name into the legacy of eternity. If you listen with your heart and not just your ears, you will find the clarity you lost and the fire you once carried. Now, we begin the return to who God meant you to be. There is no such thing as a man born without a mission. It is not in the nature of the Creator to waste material. Every soul that takes breath was issued from the furnace of divine intention, clothed in flesh for the purpose of completion. And yet, how many men walk the earth with eyes downcast, voices uncertain, lives drifting like leaves in a stream with no memory of where they came from or where they are going? The tragedy is not that they failed, it is that they forgot. They forgot the instruction whispered into their spirit before they ever spoke their first word. They forgot the code written into their conscience, the one that cannot be erased, only ignored. The purpose of a man's life is not a mystery to be uncovered in some future year, nor is it a treasure buried beneath thousands of books or behind the opinions of others. It is not something you find by accident or stumble into through the praise of men. Purpose is not discovered, it is obeyed. And it has been calling you since the first moment you realized that you were different, that there was something in you that did not settle, that could not be soothed by mediocrity, that even in your worst moment there was a whisper, "This is not where you belong." Andrew Carnegie was not born with steel in his hands. He was born with clarity in his soul. He saw poverty, yes, but he did not agree with it. He made a vow, early and unseen by the world, that if he ever held wealth, he would never hoard it. He would use it to build, to instruct, to uplift. That vow was not ambition. It was obedience to the design of his creation. And in that vow, he began to walk with the certainty of a man on assignment. He did not ask the world to approve his mission. He acted as if heaven had already commissioned it, and it had. Henry Ford was told the automobile was foolish, that he should settle for building wagons, perhaps repairing machines for a wage. But the purpose inside him would not allow it. It stirred him in silence. It demanded repetition. And so, while others laughed, he moved with mathematical precision. He did not try to invent from the outside in, he moved from the inside out. He knew what he was to build long before the world saw it. That is the mark of purpose. It precedes applause. Abraham Lincoln was not raised to unify a divided nation. He was not born into greatness. He was forged in rejection, grief, and solitude. But deep in his soul there was a charge, a weight. And when the time came, it was not talent that raised him. It was resolve. It was the alignment of identity with divine intention. When a man chooses to act not from emotion, but from calling, no matter the cost, he becomes the man God meant him to be. And so I ask you, have you been living from the assignment or from the applause? Have you been listening to the whisper of heaven or the noise of the crowd? Are you waiting for permission to move, or are you remembering who you were before fear taught you to be cautious? Your emptiness is not a lack of achievement. It is the result of ignoring the original instruction. You cannot fill a man made for greatness with distractions. You cannot satisfy a soul designed to build with toys meant for children. You must return. Return not to more goals, but to purpose. And not your own version of purpose, but to the sacred original, the one written on your soul before you were ever aware of your own name. You do not need to invent your mission. You need only recall it and then obey. Affirmations. I was made on purpose for purpose. I am not lost. I am being led back. My existence is evidence of my assignment. Let every step from this moment forward be taken as if you remember who you are. The moment a man receives his calling is the moment a war begins. Not on the outside, but within. A war between the call and the couch, between movement and maintenance, between fire and familiarity. This is a battle not every man is willing to admit, for it is not always loud. In fact, most often it is subtle. It shows up not as terror, but as temptation. The temptation to rest when you should rise, to delay when you ought to deliver, to blend in when your spirit demands you stand out. But make no mistake, every man must choose. You may have comfort or you may have calling, but you may not have both. Purpose, I must tell you plainly, does not begin in pleasure. It begins in pressure. It arrives not with applause, but with tension. It demands something sacred before it gives anything visible. It does not invite you gently. It breaks into your life like a command. That is why most men never step into their true work. They are waiting for it to feel better. But God does not send purpose as a lullaby. He sends it as a wake-up call. And it will keep ringing until you rise, or until your silence becomes so habitual that even heaven no longer expects you to answer. Thomas Edison did not become the man we admire because he was more gifted than others. He became that man because he was willing to fail more often, for longer, and with more conviction than any man around him. He did not pray for comfort. He did not hope for rest. He walked into rejection like it was the proving ground of his purpose. 10,000 failed experiments are not the sign of a defeated man. They are the markings of one who has made peace with discomfort. For Edison, failure was not to be feared. It was to be exhausted until only success remained. Theodore Roosevelt's story is one of war in the flesh. He was not born with strength. His body was fragile, and his youth filled with sickness. But he was called, and he made a decision that would shape the rest of his life, that he would not allow comfort to make his choices. He trained his body not just to survive, but to endure. He built his character on the battlefield of discipline. His victories in leadership were simply echoes of his early defeats over weakness. He won the war of comfort long before he ever entered the halls of power. And then there is Edwin C. Barnes, the man who did not ask to be Edison's partner but declared it. He had no credentials, he had no invitation. He simply showed up and refused to act like a man who was optional. And when he was rejected, when he was told there was no seat for him, he did not retreat. He did not wander. He worked in the very same building for a menial wage and waited, not for opportunity, but for obedience to ripen. The calling burned so deep that no form of rejection could cool it. He was uncomfortable, yes, but he was aligned. And that was enough. Every day you are presented with the same decision. You will not find it on your calendar. It is not announced, but it is there, in the silence between the snooze button and your rising. In the moment you decide whether to speak or remain silent. In the space between thinking and doing. The decision, will I obey my soul? Or will I soothe my fear? There is a kind of comfort that masquerades as peace. But it is not peace, it is prison. It does not calm you, it cages you. And if you do not break from it, it will suffocate the man you were sent here to become. You may delay your calling, but you cannot delete it. And the longer you delay, the more uncomfortable your comfort will become. You will wake up with achievements and still feel empty. You will meet goals and still feel hollow. You will be praised and still know something vital is missing. That is the grief of a man who traded his purpose for his pillow. You must learn to reject ease as the primary measure of success. The purpose is not designed to be easy. It is designed to be eternal. And what is eternal cannot be approached casually. It must be met with fire. It must be answered with everything you are, or it will remain dormant, and your life will remain diluted. Let us now speak the affirmations that remind your soul who you truly are. I am the type of man who resists ease for excellence. Comfort does not lead me, conviction does. I choose pressure when it forges me. My purpose is more precious than my peace. I trade comfort for calling daily and without regret. Say them not as suggestions, but as declarations. Speak them until they speak back, until your habits rise to match your heart, until you can look your reflection in the mirror and say, I did not choose the soft way, I chose the sacred one. Purpose becomes power only when it is declared. Too many men live with vague longing in their soul, but no written vow in their hand. They whisper wishes, but they do not command outcomes. They are stirred with fire on Sunday, yet return to drift on Monday, not because they lack belief, but because they lack direction. The greatest tragedy is not a man without strength, but a man without an aim. Power unchanneled becomes chaos. The soul must be focused, clearly, forcefully, and faithfully. The definite chief aim is not a career. It is not a job title. It is not a position. It is the translation of your divine purpose into daily command. It is the one direction you have vowed to give your life to, the singular purpose you declare before men, before time, and before God Himself. A man who has written his aim is a man who has shaken hands with destiny. And destiny does not ignore a man who moves with such clarity. When a man writes his definite chief aim and reads it aloud with emotion, certainty, and daily repetition, he does something sacred. He does not merely state a goal, he gives heaven permission to activate what was already waiting. Your aim is not invented, it is remembered. And when it is written, when it is repeated with intensity, when your life begins to orbit around it, all the forces that were once against you begin to align in your favor. This is not magic, this is spiritual law. And law never fails the man who obeys it fully. Andrew Carnegie, whose name is now etched in the stone of history, was not merely a man of industry. He was a man of exact purpose. His definite chief aim was to amass wealth not as a monument to his name, but as a tool to bless generations. He declared early on, I will build an enterprise so vast it shall serve not just me, but mankind. He carried that aim like a holy scripture. He spoke of it, planned from it, and gave orders through it. When trials came, and they did, his aim held him upright, for a man who walks by divine vow is not easily shaken. Henry Ford, too, was a man of singular aim. His desire to build an automobile for the common man was not simply a dream, it was a divine assignment. He did not dilute his aim to appease investors or trends. He repeated it so often, internally and externally, that even when the world laughed, his subconscious believed. And when your subconscious believes your command, it will go to war for you while you sleep. To the man reading this, you must write your definite chief aim, not tomorrow, not after more thinking, today. It does not need to be poetic, it must be precise. It must stir your soul when you read it aloud. It must remind you who you are and where you are going. It must make your bones vibrate with duty. Here is how you begin. Sit in silence. Ask not, what do I want to achieve? But what assignment was I placed on this earth to fulfill? Then listen, not to the noise of logic, but to the whisper of truth. It may come as a picture, it may come as a phrase, but when it arrives, write it, carve it, speak it. Once you have written your aim, speak it aloud twice a day, once in the morning to command your day, and once in the evening to instruct your subconscious before it works through the night. Put it where your eyes cannot avoid it, on your mirror, your door, your desk. It should haunt you, it should command you, it should become as familiar as your own name. Here are affirmations to install this law within you. My aim is written in heaven and spoken by me. I declare what I build, and then I build it. My definite chief aim governs my day and guides my steps. I speak my purpose until the world aligns. My vision is my vow. My vow is my foundation. Let me leave you with this.